after I said twice that I can't answer any questions, and she still raised her hand. This has to be important. So I said, yes. And she goes, is Swift made with Swift? And the crazy part is, I think I was so shook. I actually thought about it. I said,
oh no, you didn't. Welcome to Educative Sessions. My name is Lee Ngo, and I am the community manager here at Educative. Educative makes it easy for authors to provide interactive and adaptive courses for software developers. And Educative Sessions is a multi-episodic campaign to engage with people in the developer world about their coding experiences. Today's guest is Timirah James. Timirah James is a tech evangelist and founder with TechniGal LA. And today she's going to share a speaker's nightmare. Timirah James gets swiftly interrupted. Timirah, welcome so much to the show.
thank you, Lee.
Let's begin. Timirah, in such a brief time, you've become such an accomplished leader in the developer evangelist world. I'm very interested in how you got started. You're very talented. You've done so many things. You're a musician, you're an artist, and you're also in technology. So take us through your initial phases of your journey.
Yeah, I guess just starting from my tech journey, first starting in music, of course, like music was my first love. And, that was my career. Like I was, really, really deep into the entertainment industry, both in, on the stage, in terms of like doing like musical productions, as well as really just into the recording industry as well. So that was like since the age of 6 all the way into, I still don't say I'm all like, I'm still an artist, right? But I was pursuing it heavily and full time. My mom's my manager, the whole nine, right? And when I was about maybe 17, I started to get into tech. I kind of stumbled into it. Once I started to learn web development, I said, okay, well, this is really fun. Okay, what if I want to go to college for it? I've made up my mind. I always wanted to go to college for something other than music. Just so I can have something else to add to, just what I have to offer. And I said, wow, okay, so I know I want to do computer science. Okay, so what's going to be my path after school? So I'll study computer science and I'll go into mobile development and so on and so forth. So started that journey, went into college, and that first year is all it took for me to say, this is not it. I didn't go to a CS like focused school, so they didn't have like a foundation for me to find like segues and mentorship and internships and any kind of community or foundation for growing as a young engineer and learning computer science and having a proper education. So I dropped out of college and became self-taught and dove right into mobile development. Kind of started my career from there and never looked back, So started my career into mobile development, and then kind of stumbled into this strange thing called DevRel. I was like, developer relations, developer evangelism, right. Sounds glamorous. And I figured out that this was everything that I was already doing in addition to what I was doing full time as an engineer. Like I was also participating in hackathons. I was throwing my own hackathons. I was doing workshops. I was speaking all over the place. I had started my own meetup, which is now my nonprofit, TechniGal LA, teaching women to code. And, I was doing all of these things, and I found this one pathway where I can do all the things in one and continue to grow as an engineer. So started my journey into developer relations, developer evangelism, and never looked back. So,
wow. What a while. I actually didn't know that you left traditional education in order to jump in and learn all the stuff on your own. And
absolutely.
I would love to know more about, because in the time I've known you and even up to the present, you're very interested in working in Swift.
Mm-hmm.
What initially drew you to Swift? And for those who aren't familiar, Swift is iOS mobile development. Is a framework, would you consider it, or more of a
It's a language. It's a programming language.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. And in that regard, like what interested you in the language of Swift?
Well, before Swift was Objective-C, and Objective-C is the primary, was really the primary language for building any sort of like Apple, related projects, platforms, applications. You use Objective-C. So that was the sole language for that for like over 3 decades. And then in 2014, Apple kind of introduced this new language, Swift. Now, usually when a new anything comes out, I'm not the first to jump on it. I'm like, no, I give it some time to grow, like get stable first, get a community, and then I'll, creep into it. But at the time, I was an instructor at this coding school called Make School. And I was up in the Bay Area and I was an instructor, and we were right on the cusp because we were starting like a summer academy. And, WWDC starts in that, June-ish, right? And so we were we had no clue that, we had this whole iOS curriculum going for the students, had no clue Apple was going to drop a bomb like that, a whole new programming language for building out, for iOS. So we were like, okay, we want to really prepare these students. Let's spend these next like X amount of weeks really like doing a crash course on Swift, getting deep into it, and then kind of like restructuring this curriculum so that they can also like, walk into Swift. So I had to like learn it as soon as it came out. And that was the big thing. That was the big thing. So once I made that transition, I started to get comfortable with it, and Swift has just grown so much, and I've just kind of grown with it, and it's grown on me.
Well, that's so cool to hear. So let's get to the topic at hand. Today, you wanted to share a specific experience that happened to you while you were giving a talk about Swift. So let's build the context about what happened here.
Yes. So, as we know, like I said, I made the transition into developer evangelism, started to give talks all over the place. And this was a really exciting time. And I went to a conference, is one of the more well-known conferences. Shout out to them. I'm not going to put them on blast, but went to this conference. I was super excited about it, as I am every talk. And this kind of it could not have gone wrong. You're not a great speaker until you have experiences like this, where you're like I could have done better, or like this really went south. I feel like if you don't have at least, a little less than a handful, up to like a handful of experiences like that, you're not a great speaker yet.
Okay.
So I go to this conference. I'm in the middle of giving the talk. Well, let's start from prior to giving the talk. Just before, the moderator, or the room, what do you call those? Like the room monitors that they have just before you go into the room. They're like, hey, make sure you have your presentation in Keynote. I had done my presentation in Google Slides, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. I'll just do the conversion. I'll just open it in Keynote and we'll do all of that, right? And sometimes there's an issue with that because you have some fonts that may not be, that may not convert over to Keynote and all this stuff. I didn't even think about that. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to open in Keynote. So I open the Keynote, I'm giving the talk, and my words are like scrambled.
Oh no.
On the presentation slide.
Worst nightmare. So, no.
Right. Yeah. So that's fail number one, right? And I had like code snippets that I didn't like have the like professional like code snippet, like we have the coding blocks. Right. I had like text blocks, right? So the text was like jumbled, like this is Objective-C, this is Swift, and they're like mixed. So on the slide. So that was fail number one. And I was just like, so the crowd's like, I'm like, no. Don't worry about that. I'll just tell you. I'm like, so sorry about this. Right. So I'm going on, and they happened to put me on with like 2 other popular speakers. And I was like, great. So everybody had to make a split decision, and I got the shorter end of the stick. So I had a very intimate crowd, right? Intimate room. And so I guess because it was so intimate, people felt comfortable enough to also speak while I'm speaking.
Hmm.
So they felt like
I mean, that bothers me tremendously. Some people are fine with that, like if they
yeah.
speak at a conference, but I don't like that personally.
No, I hate that because
Yeah.
it's okay if maybe it's a workshop,
Right.
but if I'm on stage, like do not have a conversation with me, like don't have a loud conversation with someone else. Like this is not that.
Right.
This is not that.
Right.
So people are starting to ask me questions. They're like, hey, so does that mean this or that? I'm like, immediately startled. I'm like, you know what? We'll save those questions for the end, and I'll kind of go back. This is a time talk, so I want to make sure I get through all of this, right? So then, there's a guy. He's raising his hand. This like really like older guy, and he just keeps raising his hand. I try to ignore him so I can keep going. So he keeps raising his hand, and I'm like, I finally just like, yeah. So you have a question, or he's like, I just want to say, back in 1989, when Jobs was really getting into it, with the whole Apple thing, and he was, back and forth with, I remember when Objective-C was the language, because I was over there, right? They were doing next and next step. And I remember, the engineering team, I'm like, I am shook.
You're not in the Q&A part yet, right? He's just talking.
I'm in the middle of the presentation, and he's just like, I remember when Jobs, because I was over there I'm like, help, this is not happening. This had never happened to me before. I was on too much of I was on a fire streak. Like, yeah, this is the perfect talk. And then here comes like someone giving a story time in the middle of my talk. So then, I'm like, sir, can we, I asked, can we please just, we can talk about this at the end of I'll be more than happy to come and have a conversation with you at the end of this talk. Okay. And any questions you may have, or anyone may have, let's address that at the end. Right. So I keep going, and then someone else raises their hand, right? It's an older lady, and she's in the back, and I'm like, everything in me is telling me not to address her. Just keep going. No, Timirah, don't do it. Just keep going. But no, I answered the question. I said, I stopped in the middle again, because this had to be important. After I said twice that I can't answer any questions, and she still raised her hand, this has to be important. So I said, yes. And she goes, is Swift made with Swift? And the crazy part is, I think I was so shook. I actually thought about it. I said,
oh no, you didn't.
I said, what? Wait, what? I thought about it. I was like day one expert in Swift at this point. Yeah. And I said, I was so baffled. I said, I thought about it. And I said, wait, what am I doing? No, absolutely not. So I guess they couldn't take my word for it, because the old guy, again, who wanted to make the speech, he then goes, hey, Siri, is Swift written in Swift? In the middle of my talk. Hey, Siri, is Swift written in Swift? And Siri goes, Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift? You know what? I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. So he's like, no, Swift. Is Swift? He gets louder. I'm like, this is not happening. I just freeze. I'm like, I'm dreaming. Right. I'm like, oh, this is not happening.
this feels like
So
a test or something.
I'm like,
this,
that something is happening. This is not real life. So
Wow.
he continues to go. And of course, Siri has no clue. Like, I'm giving you Taylor Swift. And I'm like, sir, please, please. Okay? I'm telling you, absolutely not. Swift is not written in Swift. I need to get through this talk. Please allow me to. Okay? I will answer any and every, I promise, every question you have. Just let me get through. I got 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes, okay? And I got about 15 minutes worth of content, okay, right now, because I keep stopping, okay? So please just let me get through. I promise, we're almost done. And they're just like, now they're looking, and there's a guy. He's one of the so I think it was taking place at a university. So he actually attended that university. He was a college student, and he's sitting up front and looking at me like this the whole time, like just. And he's like, you really should know these things. Oof. I said, I almost just dropped the mic.
That's it.
I just, because you don't want to be the angry one, right? You don't want to be, and it's just like, what do you do? What do you do? Mm-hmm. And I since then I've seen some of my friends handle these kinds of situations in their own unique ways. But at that moment, that was just, I was in the twilight zone. Okay. I will never, ever forget this. Okay. I mean, Siri, in the middle of the presentation, I'm just speaking. I'm like, yeah. So, right. And this is why, you want to make sure that the compiler, hey, Siri. I'm like, whoa.
Oh gosh, I'm teary-eyed actually.
Whoa.
This is the most insane, like horrific story.
No, this is real life. This is real life.
Oh my gosh. And that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things I want to say. And I'll keep it concise. Like, I find all of this activity, you handled it, I think, from your interpretation, I'll say, with class and with temperance. I am not that person.
Yeah.
You've seen me as a facilitator, right?
Yeah.
I actually can get on people, and if anybody is like, excuse me, like, and there are certain things that I've used growing up. I mean, I'm a bit older. I've got this loud baritone voice, and I tend to take up a lot of space. Like, my charisma goes overload just to compensate, because I just want to control that space so much. But absolutely. And this is upsetting, honestly, in a lot of ways, because I find all of this stuff happening. One, anybody's asking questions during a presentation when there's certainly a lot of time for a Q&A or responses or a conversation to the side. And they're not respecting that. And I find that so many people, when they ask questions, they're just doing it not really because they are genuinely curious. They want to hear themselves think and talk, and that's like their ego-driven form of expression and learning.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's something I would love people just to chill on that.
Just chill. Just take the information.
Just respect what the speakers, even if the speaker's flawed, because there's no such thing as a perfect speech. But there's the audacity, like how they're treating you versus other treating people, which I think that's the real. I don't even want to dig too deep into that. It's almost just self-evident.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Oh, I was very much aware. One thing I have to be, being a Black woman and all that, I have to be very aware of the space I'm in. And I have to be very aware of, just the climate. These are things that I was, first of all, being born and having to be hyper aware of all these things. And then being in this industry, right? Being hyper aware of all these things, because things like this will happen, and what helped me kind of bring a lot of that down is that it's happened definitely to a lot of my female friends, peers who are, very much doing great things on high platforms. It's happened to them. But it's happened to some guys as well. And so I kind of took it as, just some, like, again, you're not a great speaker until you have some part of that, right? Because we have a little bit of people like that in the culture who feel like they want to take over the room, or you're taking up too much space and they want a piece of that space, right? If you see me, I'm 6'1". I walk into a room and, and they're just
When I
like,
first met you, I wanted to roll a red carpet in front of you because like no one had your presence and your style, and it was just like this like
oh,
hush of like, yeah, let's this it's like that moment in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 where like the Sovereign walks in the red carpet. Like I thought that's
oh,
what you deserved. Like you were just such a presence.
thank
Well,
you.
we are a bit over time, but
Oh yeah.
I would love to go like I would love to give you all the time that you lost on that platform back right here.
Let's get it off.
But the best I can do for you is to give you a couple more things. I'll start with lessons learned and wisdom for other people. And the sad truth is other people may endure something like this in the future. But how do you think they should handle these kinds of experiences when they come?
Oof. Like you said, I've played that thing back. This happened some years back, so I played that thing back in my head like a million times. Like, what would I do differently? And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if there would be much that I would have done differently other than remove those people. Other than that, like, I very much clearly stated, I will answer your questions at the end of this. This is not that. Please do not speak. Well, I mean, what more can you do other than, turn up and flip a table. Oh, I said, no.
That's like, I'm like,
right?
two more people like who are saying
Right.
things like, I think you should know better. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the words that would make me
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
That too. Oh my goodness. When I was growing up, I had teachers who used to say, you know what? You know it all. And they would stop the they would stop the lecture. Like if we were talking too much,
Oh,
oh, I said stop talking. Oh, you know what? You know it all. Pop quiz. Let's go.
ah,
Like so hey, there's that. But I think like whatever you can do to, I feel like to make change, you have to, uh, all we have control over is ourselves, so you want to make sure that you stay calm and you don't blow a gasket, and you stay professional in that time. And if it's really bothering you, you make sure that usually you have a facilitator in the room. The facilitator ended up leaving, so you didn't catch any of that. So I had to
oh,
tell them,
yeah,
you know. So, you want to make sure that the facilitator is in the room and you let them know, hey, like, they've got to go. They've got to go. So if you
right,
can remove those people, because what they're doing is holding up, like everyone's there to get this information and learn together. And this person is holding everybody else up, and you definitely don't want them taking up your time because this is a timed talk. I had 30 minutes to get through. So, yeah, just make sure that you stay confident. Don't let it deflate you. Don't let it take you off track. And that comes with practice, getting back on track when there's somebody's phone rings or this or that, or someone's talking or whatever, and get right back on track to where you left off, right? So yeah, that's my best advice that I have.
got it. Uh, Timirah, this has probably been the most emotional and stunning, and I mean, I've actually got teary-eyed just like watching how you just that inner monologue that's going on in your head as it's going on is both hilarious and also I immediately connect with it. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
speaking to this. I know we are going over. I don't care.
Yeah.
I think you deserve the platform. I'd like for you to share one thing. You can talk about whatever you like. Call it a shameless plug that you can share to our community as well. So go right ahead.
Oh my goodness, shameless plug. Okay, first of all, follow me on Twitter at Timirah J. You can get me there. You can ask me questions and follow up with all the cool stuff that I'm doing. I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/ Timirah J. We stream every Thursday and Saturdays. I started something new called the Saturday Night Dev Call, where we just kind of talk about what's happening in tech, has been happening for that week, and some things that are going on. We just kind of share, some of our ups and downs. and we have a good time and motivate each other. Let me see, what else do I have? TechniGal LA is still alive and well. You can follow TechniGal_LA on Twitter and or Instagram. And if you want to maybe perhaps give a workshop, or you want to present something, or you want anything you want to communicate, you want to share with this community of, we have around 1,000 women in the community, you let me know, reach out, and I will, gladly give you the platform to do so. I just want to thank you so much for giving me this platform and sharing something fun and horrific, and hopefully it helps somebody. If not, just gave you a good kiki, a good laugh, So yeah, so thank you so much, Lee.
Not at all. And I mean, like, all the thanks are for you and just sharing this very vulnerable, but also, I think, inspiring story for someone to continue to fight for their voice and also fight for their overall, like, desire to express yourself in the many beautiful ways that you do. So that just about wraps it up for us here at Educative Sessions. I want to thank our guests and all the people who've attended. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what we do at Educative, you can check us out at educative.io. For all of us here at Educative, thank you so much and happy learning. Bye-bye now. Thank you for watching this episode of Educative Session. If you liked this episode, please like it and share with your community. To stay informed about the latest sessions, subscribe to our channel by clicking the button above. Check out our podcast at educativesessions.podbean.com in the description below. Lastly, if you're tech curious, check us out at educative.io. Happy learning, everyone.